name's Lauren Camp. I founded On Record LA about almost 7 years ago, which is kind of crazy to think. I was at a few different PR firms previously. In school, I was working in sports. I was working with Rob Deerdeck. I wanted to work in action sports, doing PR and digital marketing. From there, I worked in crisis PR for film and TV for a little while, and then I got connected with OVO, so through Drake's Camp. And I was like, wow, I really like music. I didn't realize that this could be a career path. So I started working with a music PR firm, and I just felt like I was a small fish in a big pond. My ideas and my voice weren't often heard, and a lot of the artists that I was listening to weren't the artists that we were servicing. And I felt that as a publicist, I wanted to be creative and work with artists that I really was passionate about. So I tried bringing in some clients. My boss at the time didn't really see the value in working with independent acts that didn't have large budgets. So I broke off and figured it out on my own, and here we are 7 years later. The music industry itself has changed so much in the past few years, given the pandemic. And then you look at PR, which has changed significantly. I mean, when I first started working in music PR specifically, what a premiere with Fader would do for my clients was huge and such an impact on their career. And nowadays, as we've seen such a big shift in publications, some going out of business, unfortunately, during the pandemic, a lot of staff changes, the change of, just a lot of blogs going and now creating more digital content. I think the way people discover music has also had a huge influence on that. I think the biggest thing that I, talk to, my peers and my clients about is that you really have to understand your audience. And that comes to the core at the PR space. Networking is a big aspect of that, and understanding industry moves, where people are working now. There's a lot of freelancers, where they're writing, and understanding the terms with that too. When you're specifically targeting an audience, it's thinking, if you're looking for, specifically at digital press, right? Digital PR, those blogs, write-ups, reviews, things like that. Excuse me, that's my dog. She agrees. But when you're looking at the online space, you have to understand, okay, in today's society, most music fans aren't discovering your music on the blogs anymore. They're, looking at their favorite playlist. They're discovering you on your Instagram or your TikTok. So understanding, okay, so when they do come across this feature, this profile, or this premiere that we've locked in, what are they reading? And what's sort of the conversation you want to create around that, right? And I think as the industry has shifted, our job has shifted, but we're storytellers at the end of the day, and I think that's always been the core of what our value is on any team. Speaking to the fact that as publicists, we are storytellers, and I think what I saw going from a larger PR firm to now heading up my own, and I get to handpick who I work with, my voice and my opinions and my what I can bring to the table is a little more impactful. So when I can come in as a storyteller and help an artist tell their story, get to the meat and potatoes of, why this song, what does this mean, why this album, and what are you trying to say with all of this? It really helps their digital marketing. It helps the manager. It helps with, conversations across the board for an artist, not just in the PR space. So when I first started on record, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew that I loved music and I loved being a creative publicist, a storyteller, and I wanted to work with artists that I just really was a fan of at the end of the day. So some of the first roadblocks were just figuring out how to start a business and what that meant. What was an LLC versus an S corp? Um, you know, then the second phase, when I was bringing on more clients beyond my first official client, how did I then manage the accounting and all the communications there? I remember my first year of On Record, it was just myself doing everything, and I had a fake email for my assistant. I was like, here's Deborah, she'll send this to you. And it was really me sending everything. Just to sort of create this facade that I had this infrastructure to be taken seriously in some regards, because I was working with larger and larger acts as I continue to grow and invest in my company. And then when I got over the next hurdle of actually hiring someone, which was such an exciting thing, like to think that someone wanted to work with me, and I'd gotten to that point, right? My joke was always that if I didn't figure it out and on record didn't really come to full fruition, I just go work with a label, add a label, and luckily I didn't have to. So when I hired Simone, my first employee, it was learning how to delegate properly to her, creating that larger infrastructure right within the company. And now, we're a team of four and we are bi-coastal and we work with artists around the world. So it's been really exciting to see the growth, but it's okay if you don't know everything. Also, the beautiful thing in working for yourself and having these opportunities, I got to learn the ropes on everything. I got to learn what to do and what not to do, especially once I expanded into the management side of things and started taking on new clients, working with Kyle Dion for 6 years and a few other acts. Yeah, you end up wearing every single hat, right? So I to be the accountant, I was the tour manager, I was driving the bus, doing everything at once. And I think that's another thing too to speak to is learning how to juggle many different hats, but also finding work life balance. Yeah, I still do. I have 3 acts under my belt right now, and building out that division, I love it. I think because I'm a Virgo, I like organization and taking care of people, so it comes easily to me. My advice to up and coming artists, as a publicist, would be that there are so many tools at your disposal online. A lot of the things that I access you can access too, and obviously there comes a time where you don't have the time to do that and do the research and sort down, track down somebody's email on Twitter and do all the outreach. But there are a lot of really useful tools, and I think too, there's never any fault at a cold email, reaching out to a publicist you might found online or connect with, or other artists, and asking them their experience. The way that we on record, we're very transparent. If you come to us a little too early, or assets aren't ready, or we feel like it's just not going to make an impact, because we've sort of become, you know we like pride ourselves on being like the independent artist publicist, right? We're very transparent if it's not your time, and we'll give you advice and point you in the right direction. And when it is your time, come back and we'll help you from there. I feel like publicists have gotten a bad rep for, sort of just pitching things out and not wielding results. And I think that's one thing too, that I had to learn early on, was setting expectations with my clients. And just, I transparency is key. Just being really honest. I give a full report that tells you, here's the feedback that I got from this editor. And it may not always be what they want to hear, but if I share that with them, hey, you know what? They said that they just didn't like this song, but maybe they might like this one. Let's resend this. Or, let's chat back with them in a month and reconnect. So that's where that strategy comes in, and sort of helping them, really see how we can make this an effective campaign. There are tools that I've used in the past as well. And some of my clients, I suggest that they use it if we're not using it ourselves. What's nice about that, and as I've seen Submit Hub develop over the years, and Musa Soup as well, is that they have so many tools and utilities that artists can use and select, and really just get into the very specifics of who they're trying to speak to and target. And it's pretty inexpensive. Like if you budget it out, $30 can go a long way on Submit Hub. So my advice to, any other women just trying to make their own path in this, right? Whether it's PR, or you're an artist or a manager, whatever it be, right? My thing is, don't take no for an answer. I was always told that I was too nice to work in music, and I figured it out. Really amazing people that work around me that are like some of my best friends. I'm like, I'm so glad that I was able to sort of see through the bullshit, right? And make these amazing connections. And my work is just so much more fulfilling that way. I think it's easy to get jaded by that, especially if you're in the mix of some of these more industry conversations, or don't compare yourself to others. I think that's one of the tough things too. When I started off was, comparing myself to some of my peers who were a little further along in their career, or someone who had stayed at that corporate office job for 7, 8 years, and they grew to a certain level. I'm like, you know what? I'm really proud of myself, and I take the little wins and the big wins come, and it makes me just really proud of what we've accomplished. There is an art to a cold email, right? And I think as a publicist, you learn the way to communicate to certain people. And I've never been the one that will copy and paste the same email to every person. I do try to learn a little bit about who I'm emailing. So whether it's like looking on their social media. Oh, they just went on a trip. Let me like bring that in there. Or, just trying to make it personal, because with this day and age of everything being online, it can be tough, especially with, people from all over the world you're communicating with. Just trying to find that human connection at the end of the day, I think resonates really well. I think will expand your network more so than you could have ever imagined.